Welcome back. ABC-7 medical contributor Dr. Ogechika Alozie with Sunset West Health joins me now. All right, Doc, let's go back in time to February of 2020. You said something that probably sounds crazy now. You want to tell our viewers what that was?
Yeah, probably hubris-filled, to say the least. I think I was with Saul at that point in time on an extra segment, and I said that COVID wasn't going to be a big deal. It was going to stay in China, and I had every intention of going to the Olympics with my family at the end of the year.
Famous last words.
Oh, gosh.
Well, here we are a little more than 3 years after the start of the pandemic, and I wanted us to play a little game of that was then, this is now.
Absolutely.
All right, you ready?
Go for it.
We're going to start with a conversation that you had on ABC-7's Good Morning El Paso with Mauricio Casillas. This was October of 2020 when there were just 908 people in the hospital. Take a look.
I think where we are right now is we're just tired. I mean, I think the city's tired. It's not, when I say we, it's not me or the healthcare workers, but they are. The city's tired. And I get when people are tired of restrictions, they're tired of limitations. But I think, like I've been sort of trying to tell people, that all the numbers, whether it's 1,300, 1,000, those are human beings. They're, like I said, the 30-year-old that came in the other day, or the gentleman that was asking for a cup of Sprite before he got intubated, maybe his last cup of Sprite ever. And so that fatigue, having physicians and nurses walk up to you and literally break down crying because it's tiresome and it's just painful to watch so much human tragedy and death.
So what's your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, I think I've heard that clip multiple times before, and even now it still gives me chills, right? Just that sense of surrealism, if that's a word, of looking back to how scary it was at that point in time. The trauma, the fear, all the death that was around us. I mean, I've told that story about the person that wanted Sprite and later passed on. And even now, it just kind of scares me that we actually had to go through that at all.
All right. Now, we have another clip from a couple of months later. This is December of 2020. You were being interviewed by our Saul Saenz on ABC-7 Sunday Extra.
What are folks like you and the other people in the health community doing to protect themselves, or to I guess, to build up their immunity?
I think the biggest thing is this, right? And people downplay it, but this is one of the biggest things that you can do to protect yourself, right? Just wear the mask. Wear the mask, physically distance. Being outside in an environment like this reduces your risk significantly. And so, again, we're blessed in El Paso that it's not 30 degrees below zero. It's 32, 34. It's not too bad.
Thank you very much.
I think it's all of those kind of things that we need to do. And again, you know, this has been a long year. I mean, 2020 will go down in our lifetimes as a year of, wow, how do we get through this? But I think the hope of vaccines is there. We never want to forget the tragedy that we've gone through.
And surprisingly enough, we did get through it, but it was a rough go.
It was. I think, you know, funnily looking at that, it just surprised me how fat I was. And I had braces then too, so that was interesting. But I think even more, that was a really interesting time. In December, our hospitalizations had just started going up again. There was a lot of fear. We were again a hot spot in the nation. But right around the corner was vaccines. We were waiting for those vaccines to come. Sort of a mixed emotion, because the amount of emphasis we put on masking compared to now, the vaccines were the key. Getting that immunity into the community was the key. And for me personally, it was literally 5 days later that I tested positive for COVID, and so I couldn't get a vaccine.
And here we are, January of 2021, from zero and then to 11.2 billion in a year's time.
It's amazing, right? I think those vaccines provided so many people that ability to start to get back to whatever this new normal is. And just looking back again, it's just remarkable, the science that went into it and the controversy that went into it.
All right, let's jump ahead, speaking of 2021, to December of that year. People started traveling for the holidays. Here was your advice.
The biggest thing to consider is, what's your vaccination status? What's your health status? And do you really need it, right? I know that we're tired of COVID. Everybody's tired of COVID. I'm tired of COVID. However, family's important. The holidays are important. I truly believe that you can do it in a safe manner, but you just have to take your own personal and your family's risk into account.
And how things have changed since then. We were masking up in the terminal, masking up on the plane.
Yep.
But the best thing was, so many of us were vaccinated.
Yeah, and there's a slide that we'll show next that actually shows that decoupling, right? A couple of things happened. Delta was more contagious. there was this fear that we're going to have so many more people in the hospitals and death. But what we saw was a lot more people got infected, but very few people came into the hospital. And that was the remarkable nature of not just vaccines, but the immunity of so many people getting SARS-CoV-2.
Now, let's look at a graphic that shows where we were when it all began and where we are now.
Yeah, I think this is a great sort of show of what we've gone through over the last 3 years, right? From the start in the summer of 2020 to that first peak, and then that second peak is the sort of Omicron Delta wave that we had in 2021 and where we are now, right? And so it's remarkable. I think sort of my takeaway on it is initially there was a lot of hubris. There was a lot of certainty. We always made these statements that we know for sure X, Y, and Z was going to happen. What I learned through the pandemic is that you can never be sure, to try to reassure people as much as possible and just to do your best. And I think KVIA has given me an opportunity to try to help our community, teach our community, and I'm thankful for the work that the community has done to get us where we are now.
And we will continue to rely on your expertise in the months and the years ahead.
Thank you.
Dr. Ogechika Alozie, thank you.
Appreciate it.